This is the story of a young girl who entered a world she barely understood, reached incredible heights of fame in a very short period, and then disappeared completely, leaving a mystery that still fascinates people today. This is the journey of Yumi Kazama. Yumi Kazama was born on August 27, 1979, in Tokyo, Japan. Her early life was quiet, disciplined, and ordinary by Japanese standards. She grew up in a household that valued education, respect, and privacy. The environment was one of calm and order, and from a very young age, Yumi learned to observe the world around her rather than demand attention. Her personality was naturally reserved. She listened more than she spoke, and she watched carefully before engaging. This foundation of calm and observation would later play a significant role in how she managed the pressures of the adult entertainment industry. Very little is known about her parents, siblings, or family background. This absence of public information reflects the careful boundaries she maintained throughout her life. Even in her early years, Yumi demonstrated a preference for keeping personal matters private. She was not interested in public recognition at that age, and there were no early signs that she would soon enter a world where exposure and attention would define her life. During her teenage years, Yumi Kazama's natural beauty and poise began to stand out. She had delicate facial features, expressive eyes, and a quiet confidence that drew attention without demanding it. People who knew her described her as intelligent, introspective, and emotionally mature. She did not seek popularity or validation. She simply existed with a calm dignity that made her memorable to those around her. While most teenagers were focused on school, hobbies, and socializing, Yumi's presence was quietly compelling. Her maturity set her apart from peers, and it is said that she carried herself in a way that made others notice, even if unintentionally. This natural charm and composure would later become one of her most distinguishing traits in her career. At the age of 15, Yumi Kazama made a decision that would change her life forever. She entered the Japanese adult video industry, a world that was growing rapidly in the mid-1990s. This was a period of significant expansion in the AV industry in Japan, where studios were competing to discover new faces, and the demand for youth, novelty, and talent was high. At this age, most teenagers are still exploring their identity and personal choices. For Yumi, the choice to enter this professional and highly scrutinized world was monumental. Her debut was not marked by flashy promotion or media hype. Instead, it arrived quietly, yet the reaction was immediate. Audiences noticed something different about her. Unlike many newcomers who relied on exaggerated expressions or artificial appearance, Yumi had a natural authenticity that resonated with viewers. She had the rare combination of youthful innocence and a serious, mature gaze. This contrast made her stand out in a crowded industry almost immediately. Producers recognized her potential and began to feature her in more projects. Her early works were met with interest and attention. She quickly began to appear more regularly in films, and her popularity started to grow. Despite her youth, she demonstrated remarkable professionalism on set. She followed instructions carefully, adapted to various roles, and delivered performances that were both precise and emotionally resonant. By the late 1990s, Yumi Kazama's rise was undeniable. She was appearing in numerous films, and her fan base was rapidly expanding. People were drawn not just to her physical appearance, but to the way she conveyed emotion and depth in her performances. She did not feel artificial or staged. She felt real, human, and emotionally present. Fans described her work as elegant, expressive, and memorable, and her reputation grew both within the industry and among the audience. During this time, the pressures of the industry began to weigh heavily on her. While she was achieving fame and success, she was still extremely young. The schedules were demanding, the expectations were high, and the emotional toll of performing in such an environment was significant. Directors and producers often commented on her discipline and focus, but few could see the internal pressure that accompanied her professional life. Yumi had to navigate a world that required both emotional and psychological maturity beyond her years. She managed to maintain her professionalism, but the cost of early fame was subtle yet profound. Over time, observers noticed changes in her demeanor. Her expressions became more serious, her on-screen presence carried additional weight, and she began to convey a depth of emotion that reflected not just skill but lived experience. Despite these pressures, Yumi Kazama continued to work consistently and effectively. Her early success did not make her complacent. She remained committed to her craft, continually refining her performances, and maintaining the high standards that had first attracted attention. This commitment further cemented her reputation as one of the industry's most promising young stars. Her early works and rise to popularity were remarkable not only for the speed at which she became known, but also for the way she connected with audiences. Fans were captivated by her authenticity, by the subtlety of her expressions, and by the emotional presence she brought to each project. Unlike many others whose careers depended solely on physical appeal, Yumi offered a unique combination of natural beauty, emotional depth, and professional dedication. As the years progressed, her career trajectory continued upward. She was frequently featured in prominent projects, and her name became well known in discussions of the most influential and memorable performers of her generation. Magazines featured her on their covers, interviews highlighted her unique qualities, and studios sought her participation in high-profile releases. At this stage, her life had become intertwined with the public eye, though she continued to protect her personal life with care and discretion. Her rise to fame also brought scrutiny. The demands of the industry, combined with the visibility she received, placed her under constant observation. Fans, critics, and media all had expectations, and the pressures of balancing public perception with personal boundaries were significant. Despite this, Yumi managed to navigate these challenges with remarkable composure. She remained professional, focused, and emotionally grounded even in an environment that could be overwhelming for someone of her age. By this time, Yumi Kazama was not just a rising star. She was becoming a defining figure of her era. Her work was studied and discussed. Her performances were admired for their subtlety and impact, and her presence left a lasting impression on both colleagues and audiences. She became known for her ability to convey emotion authentically, to maintain professionalism under pressure, and to retain a sense of personal agency even while navigating an industry built on visibility and performance. Her early career, from childhood and teenage years to entry into the AV industry and initial rise to fame, set the stage for what would become a short but intensely impactful journey. The combination of natural talent, professionalism, and the quiet strength she exhibited under tremendous pressure made her stand out in a way few could replicate. As Yumi Kazama entered the late 1990s, her career had reached a level that few performers of her generation could imagine. She had moved from being a promising newcomer to becoming one of the most recognized and talked about figures in the Japanese adult video industry. Her early works had captured attention, but now she was commanding not just audiences, but entire production studios. She was being sought for high-profile releases, magazine features, interviews, and promotional events. Her name was spoken with respect and admiration, but also with curiosity and intrigue. The peak of Yumi Kazama's career was marked not only by the quantity of her work, but by the quality and impact of her performances. Each project became an opportunity for her to demonstrate the unique combination of innocence and maturity that had first drawn attention. Her presence on screen was subtle yet magnetic. She had the ability to make viewers feel a connection, as though she were sharing a genuine moment rather than performing a scripted role. This emotional authenticity separated her from many contemporaries and contributed to her rapid rise. During this period, the pace of her work intensified. She was expected to perform in multiple projects simultaneously, to travel frequently for shoots, and to maintain a level of consistency that demanded both mental and emotional stamina. Despite being only 16 or 17 years old, Yumi handled these pressures with remarkable composure. She was described by directors as disciplined, professional, and focused. She rarely complained, and she consistently delivered performances that exceeded expectation. Yet, behind the polished exterior, there was a growing tension. The combination of fame, scrutiny, and youthful inexperience created an internal struggle that few could see. While audiences admired her work, they did not witness the emotional and psychological demands placed on her. Long hours on set, intense focus, and constant attention created a situation that would challenge anyone, let alone a teenager. As her popularity grew, so did the public's fascination with her personal life. Magazines, fan forums, and media outlets speculated about her relationships, her personality, and her thoughts about the industry. This attention created additional pressure. Yumi, however, continued to protect her private life meticulously. She remained calm and reserved in public appearances, revealing only what she deemed necessary, and leaving much to the imagination of her audience. This deliberate privacy only heightened the sense of mystery surrounding her. Her performances during the peak years were often noted for their emotional depth. Unlike some performers who relied solely on physical appeal, Yumi's acting conveyed vulnerability, thoughtfulness, and presence. This ability to connect emotionally with viewers made her stand out. Fans discussed her work extensively online and in print, highlighting the subtle nuances she brought to each project. She became a benchmark for professionalism and talent in the industry. The industry itself was evolving rapidly. Production companies were experimenting with different themes, styles, and narratives. New technologies and distribution methods were changing the way content reached audiences. Yumi Kazama, as one of the leading figures, had to adapt constantly. She moved between genres and roles with skill, maintaining her authenticity while navigating an increasingly complex and competitive environment. During this time, Yumi also faced the challenges of fame at a very young age. The emotional demands of the work, combined with constant public attention, created a situation where personal reflection became increasingly difficult. She was expected to maintain a perfect image, deliver flawless performances, and meet the expectations of producers, co-stars, and fans simultaneously. The burden of these expectations, however, never showed outwardly. She maintained a calm, composed, and professional demeanor that often masked the strain she carried internally. Her growing influence also brought her into contact with various figures in the industry, from directors to fellow performers, each interaction shaping her understanding of the world she had entered. Relationships with colleagues ranged from collaborative to competitive, and Yumi navigated them with careful attention to her own boundaries. She remained focused on her work, choosing her engagements deliberately and avoiding unnecessary distractions. Despite the pressures, Yumi Kazama continued to push boundaries in her performances. She experimented with emotional expression, timing, and narrative nuance, elevating her work beyond simple physical presence. Directors and critics alike recognized her unique ability to make every scene memorable, even when working under tight schedules and demanding conditions. This period of her life showcased not only her talent but also her extraordinary capacity for focus and resilience. Her impact during the peak years extended beyond individual projects. She became a reference point for discussions about style, technique, and performance quality in the AV industry. New performers looked to her work for guidance, while seasoned professionals recognized her as a force to be respected. Her influence shaped the expectations of audiences and the standards of production companies alike. Alongside professional achievements, there were moments of subtle personal struggle. While Yumi appeared composed publicly, the internal pressure of balancing youth, fame, and personal identity was immense. The constant demand for emotional availability on set, combined with the scrutiny of a growing fan base, created a complex psychological environment. She handled these challenges with remarkable poise, but the cumulative effect of stress and expectation was undeniable. As the peak period continued, controversies began to surface, though they were often muted or subtle. Discussions arose about the ethics of young performers in the industry, the impact of fame on personal development, and the emotional toll of early exposure to adult work. Yumi Kazama's situation became a focal point in these conversations, both because of her talent and because of her very young age when she began. Critics, fans, and commentators debated her circumstances, the choices she had made, and the broader implications for the industry. Despite these debates, Yumi herself remained largely silent about the controversies. She did not offer explanations or public defenses. Instead, she focused on her work, continued to perform at a high level, and maintained the carefully managed image that had become her hallmark. Her silence, rather than being interpreted as weakness, added to her mystique and reinforced the impression that she maintained control over her life and career even amidst intense scrutiny. During this period, Yumi Kazama's interactions with fans also evolved. Fan letters, magazine features, and early online forums allowed audiences to engage with her persona. While some interactions were casual and friendly, others were intense and obsessive, reflecting the heightened attention that came with fame. Yumi navigated these dynamics cautiously, offering glimpses of personality while maintaining clear boundaries. This careful management of her public presence contributed to the enduring fascination surrounding her. As the years of peak performance progressed, it became clear that Yumi Kazama had mastered the balance between public image, professional demands, and personal boundaries. Her performances were consistently praised for authenticity and emotional depth, while her personal life remained largely shielded from the public eye. This duality, intense visibility combined with strategic privacy, made her both a star and a mystery, admired for her talent and enigmatic by design. By the end of this period, Yumi Kazama had firmly established herself as one of the defining figures of her era. Her work had influenced industry standards, set benchmarks for performance quality, and left an indelible mark on fans and professionals alike. She had navigated fame, pressure, and ethical complexities with a level of poise rare for anyone, let alone a teenager who had entered an adult industry at just 15 years old. After years of steady rise and reaching the peak of her career, Yumi Kazama did something that shocked the entire industry. At just 17 years old, she announced her retirement from the adult video industry. This announcement was sudden and unexpected. Fans, producers, and media were left stunned, as Yumi's popularity was still at its height, and her career trajectory seemed unstoppable. There were no dramatic press releases, no long farewell interviews, no public explanations. She simply stepped away from the limelight. The decision to retire so abruptly raised countless questions. Why would someone leave at the height of fame? Was it emotional exhaustion, societal pressure, or a personal realization about her future? Yumi Kazama never publicly detailed the reasons behind her choice, and her silence only deepened the intrigue surrounding her life. Following her retirement, Yumi disappeared from public view almost entirely. She did not appear in interviews, television programs, or magazine features. There was no social media presence, no public announcements, and no participation in events related to her previous work. This complete withdrawal was rare in the industry, where most performers continued to appear in some capacity, either for nostalgia or contractual obligations. Despite her absence, rumors began to circulate. Some claimed that Yumi returned to a normal life, focusing on her education or personal growth. Others speculated that she got married and settled into a domestic life away from the media. A few even suggested that she changed her identity completely to ensure privacy. None of these claims were ever verified, and the uncertainty contributed to the lasting mystery that surrounds her. Even without public appearances, her legacy continued to grow. Her previous works remained available, and new fans discovered her performances long after her retirement. Online forums and fan communities discussed her acting style, her personality, and the circumstances of her sudden departure. People analyzed her videos, reflecting on the unique combination of youth, emotional presence, and professionalism she brought to her roles. Yumi Kazama's departure sparked discussions about the ethics of the adult industry, especially regarding young performers. Scholars, critics, and fans debated the circumstances of her early entry into the industry, the psychological effects of performing at a young age, and the societal pressures that may have influenced her choices. These conversations often highlighted the broader challenges faced by young performers navigating high-pressure environments where personal boundaries and professional demands intersect in complex ways. Her story became a reference point for discussions about consent, age, mental health, and the responsibilities of production companies. The questions raised by her career trajectory, how young performers are recruited, the pressures of early fame, and the long-term impact of participation, remained relevant for years after her retirement. Culturally, Yumi Kazama's disappearance added to her mystique. In a world that often emphasizes constant visibility and media presence, her decision to retreat completely from public life was striking. Her silence became a statement, reinforcing the impression that she maintained control over her life even after leaving a highly visible career behind. Fans interpreted her choice as an act of autonomy, a refusal to be defined solely by the roles she played or the public persona she had created. Even decades later, Yumi Kazama's name remains relevant in discussions about the history of Japanese adult entertainment. New generations discover her work, and fans of the past revisit it, reflecting on the qualities that made her performances memorable. Her impact is measured not only by the popularity she achieved, but by the depth of her influence, the conversations she inspired, and the ethical questions her story continues to raise. Her work is still studied for its artistic qualities. The subtlety of her expressions, the emotional nuance in her performances, and the professionalism she displayed at such a young age make her an enduring figure of interest. Scholars and critics often cite her as an example of the challenges and achievements of early career performers, emphasizing the balance between talent, pressure, and personal choice. While much of Yumi Kazama's life after retirement remains private, the influence of her career persists. Her departure did not erase her impact. Instead, it amplified her presence in cultural memory. The mystery surrounding her current life only adds depth to the narrative, making her a figure who is simultaneously remembered, studied, and respected. In discussions about the AV industry, Yumi Kazama is often referenced as a case study for ethical considerations. The industry continues to evolve, and her story is used to highlight the importance of age-appropriate entry, consent, mental health support, and the protection of young performers. In this way, her career and retirement have contributed to broader awareness and reflection within the entertainment community. Her disappearance also inspired reflections among fans. Many expressed admiration not only for her work but for the courage it took to step away from fame and financial gain in order to prioritize personal well-being. This decision is often described as a defining moment in her story, one that elevated her from a talented performer to a symbol of self-determination and agency. Yumi Kazama's legacy during this phase is not limited to her work on screen. It includes the questions she raised, the ethical considerations her story evokes, and the example she set by choosing privacy and autonomy over continued public attention. Her life became a touchstone for discussions about the responsibilities of industries, the vulnerabilities of young performers, and the power of personal choice. The fascination with Yumi Kazama also underscores a broader cultural curiosity. Fans, scholars, and journalists are drawn to her story not only because of her talent, but because of the mystery that surrounds her. The combination of early fame, exceptional performance, sudden departure, and complete privacy creates a narrative that is compelling, complex, and emotionally resonant. Even decades after her sudden departure from the industry, Yumi Kazama's story continues to resonate with audiences around the world. Her work has been rediscovered by new generations, who are captivated not only by her talent, but by the story that surrounds her life. Modern fans often watch her videos with a sense of curiosity and admiration, appreciating the authenticity and depth she brought to every performance. The rediscovery of Yumi Kazama's work has led to discussions in online forums, fan communities, and social media platforms. Enthusiasts analyze her expressions, her gestures, and the subtle ways she conveyed emotion on screen. Many fans are struck by how someone so young could command such presence, leaving a lasting impression even on viewers decades later. Her performances are studied not just as entertainment, but as demonstrations of emotional intelligence, timing, and professional skill. Her influence extends beyond fans. Scholars and media analysts often reference her as a significant figure in the evolution of the Japanese adult video industry. She represents a generation of performers whose careers, though brief, had a profound impact on standards, aesthetics, and audience expectations. Discussions of her work often highlight the combination of youth, authenticity, and emotional depth that made her unique. Modern fan culture surrounding Yumi Kazama also reflects a fascination with mystery and absence. The fact that she disappeared from the public eye adds to the intrigue. Fans speculate, theorize, and debate her current life, creating a culture of respectful curiosity and admiration. Unlike many performers who remain in the spotlight, Yumi's absence has intensified the allure, making her story feel timeless and enigmatic. Her long-term legacy includes not only her performances but also the conversations her career inspired. Ethical discussions about early entry into the adult industry, consent, and emotional well-being continue to reference her story as a cautionary yet insightful example. Yumi Kazama embodies both the potential and the risks of early fame, offering lessons for industry professionals, audiences, and society at large. The emotional reflection on her life is profound. She was a young girl navigating pressures that few adults could handle, and she managed to maintain her integrity and personal boundaries. Her decision to retire at the height of her career demonstrates self-awareness, courage, and a commitment to personal well-being. Fans and commentators often view her retirement as a defining moment, one that elevated her story beyond mere fame into a narrative about autonomy and resilience. Even without public appearances, her story has emotional resonance. People empathize with her experience, imagining the internal struggles, the challenges of early fame, and the personal decisions she faced. This empathy strengthens her legacy, making her more than a figure of historical interest. She becomes a symbol of human complexity and the capacity to make difficult choices under pressure. Culturally, Yumi Kazama's story continues to have significance. She represents a moment in Japanese media history when youth, beauty, and professionalism intersected with societal expectations and industry demands. Her career and departure provide insights into how fame, talent, and personal choice interact in high-pressure environments. Her life story encourages reflection on the responsibilities of entertainment industries, the support needed for young. Her work is celebrated not only for its aesthetic and emotional qualities but also for the integrity with which she approached her career. Yumi Kazama demonstrated professionalism, resilience, and emotional intelligence at an age when many are still discovering themselves. Her story continues to inspire performers, creators, and audiences alike, serving as a reference point for discussions about authenticity, agency, and ethical considerations in entertainment. In fan communities today, Yumi Kazama is often revered not just as a performer but as a legend. Collectors, analysts, and casual fans alike discuss her work, her influence, and the mystery surrounding her life. These conversations reflect both admiration for her skill and respect for the choices she made. They also demonstrate the enduring fascination with someone who achieved so much at a young age and then chose to step away, leaving her story open to interpretation and reflection. Her disappearance has become an integral part of her narrative. While many performers seek visibility and recognition throughout their lives, Yumi chose a path of privacy. This decision is often interpreted as an act of agency and courage, highlighting her ability to prioritize her personal life over the demands of fame. In this way, her story provides an example of self-determination and the power of choosing one's own path, even in an environment where external pressures are immense. The long-term legacy of Yumi Kazama is multifaceted. She is remembered for her talent, her professionalism, and the emotional depth she brought to her work. She is studied as a cultural figure, reflecting broader trends in media, fame, and societal expectations. And she is admired for her personal decisions, demonstrating that stepping away from the spotlight can be as significant and courageous as achieving prominence within it. Her story also serves as a reminder of the human element behind the public persona. Behind every performance, there is a person with emotions, challenges, and choices. Yumi Kazama's life encourages audiences to consider the complexities of fame, the responsibilities of industries, and the importance of empathy and ethical reflection. As we reflect on her journey, it becomes clear that Yumi Kazama's life was remarkable not only for what she accomplished, but for the wisdom she demonstrated in navigating her circumstances. She entered an adult industry at a very young age, achieved widespread recognition, and then made the conscious decision to step away, reclaiming control over her life. Her story is both inspiring and thought-provoking, offering lessons that extend far beyond the context of her profession. The fascination with Yumi Kazama today is not solely about nostalgia or curiosity. It is about understanding a life lived at the intersection of talent, pressure, and personal choice. Her work continues to be appreciated, her story continues to be analyzed, and her legacy continues to influence discussions about ethics, autonomy, and the impact of fame. Ultimately, Yumi Kazama's journey teaches us about resilience, agency, and the enduring power of authenticity. She navigated extraordinary circumstances with grace and courage, leaving behind a story that resonates with audiences, performers, and industry professionals alike. Her life reminds us that sometimes the most powerful stories are not those that are loud and public, but those that are lived with quiet strength, deliberate choices, and a commitment to one's own principles. Even today, as new fans discover her work and scholars continue to analyze her contributions, Yumi Kazama remains a symbol of complexity, talent, and courage. Her life story, spanning early fame, rapid rise, sudden retirement, and enduring mystery, stands as a testament to the possibilities and challenges of navigating fame, personal agency, and emotional integrity in an ever-changing world. This concludes the full journey of Yumi Kazama. From her quiet beginnings in Tokyo, through her rapid rise and unprecedented influence in the AV industry, to her sudden retirement and lasting legacy, her story remains compelling, enigmatic, and deeply human. It is a story of talent, resilience, and the courage to define one's own path, leaving an indelible mark on both the industry and the audiences who continue to remember her.